Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one ring, let we rule them all. Hope you remember your thoughts. Get your Uru feathers and your Middle guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Usually wins steel if it will get you to come. To the pit tank. To the pit tank. The Rocky Mountain pit tank.
Hi, I'm Guy.
Hi, I'm Troy.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And this is Geek Tank.
Your two pasty nerds in a cage fight sized podcast. Now, I don't think they're actually going to fight. I think they're just going to keep talking about fighting.
They do seem to be like trying to fight each other in some way.
I find it interesting because when you have two multi-billionaires who are going to fight who don't have any fighting skills, they can hire anyone they want that's willing to come teach them.
Or, act as their proxies.
I don't know if their egos would allow them to put a proxy in the fight or not, but that would be the old way. To ask a champion to fight for you. So any case, I need to click. Oh no, I am on comments. Okay, just make sure I could see when.
Yeah, I was switching to comments too.
When our viewer shows up,
right? I don't think he's realized we're broadcasting yet.
Yeah,
he'll get here. He's on his way. He's running down the hallways.
Okay, with his pants.
Like in Spaceballs, that
trying to pull his pants.
Trying to go through all the different hallways and. Yeah.
So next time you're over here, Guy, remind me that I have a Star Trek comic book for you.
Oh, good.
Because when I was in Kentucky, I'd actually I like to go hit thrift stores, and I'd found a Star Trek comic book in the thrift store area. It's like one of the trade paperback kind.
Oh,
and I'm like, that's the thing I'm bringing back for Guy, I guess.
Yeah, I will definitely take that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course, guys.
I always love those.
When I was shifting stuff down here to get to the computer, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. But before I had left for my trip, I had found the paintbrushes and paints that I have been spending months trying to find.
Yay!
So I'm back to painting. I'm pretty darn close to finishing Yale's character. In fact,
I should bring my mini stuff down whenever I come down next time. I keep not doing it and then going, why am I not doing this?
That reminds me, I have to get pink because she has like 30 colors of hair. Like, what's your hair color? And she sent me this picture of like a rainbow of all these colors. So I'm like, I can't mix pink well because usually if you mix,
Brent finally made it, by the way.
Hey, Brent. Yeah, if you mix red and white, you just get a slightly lighter red. You don't get pink.
Yeah.
So I was like, I gotta remember to grab my pink color for that. And I was working on a Nilton and Yale seemed appropriate to work on the two of those miniatures at the same time.
Cool.
Interesting thing with the Nilton miniature that I didn't notice not painted, but now I've started painting. I'm like, oh, there's like a wolf head on one shoulder that's part of a pelt.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was all just pewter color, I thought maybe it was like just a really big shoulder pad of some kind.
Beefy shoulder pad.
Yeah, but it's an animal head.
Cool.
Because that makes total sense. If you're a ranger and an animist and really love animals, that you'd naturally skin an animal and then carry its pelt around.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's an animal, the enemy of all other animals. Oh, that would be man. Oh, that's
to scare off all the animals to make sure they don't.
Maybe it's a goblin head.
Goblin head.
That is his natural enemy.
Yeah.
Or favorite enemy.
You gonna kit bash a goblin head instead?
I don't think he would want me to do that. I'm actually just trying to make it look more like a I forgot what those creatures were called, but like giant were-rat kind of critter.
Mm-hmm.
Were-rat?
They're rat.
Or you can make it, with a little bit of painting. Couldn't you make it like a bronze head with like a
that's
thing
awesome.
Coming off it?
I love that idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sometimes the best ideas are just like right there, and you can't see them until somebody else goes, "It's right there." Like, oh, okay, yeah, that definitely makes more sense. That would be ornate instead of an actual dead critter.
Yeah.
Don't want to get medieval PETA after him.
You don't want to get all medieval on him.
Mm-mm.
So,
But yeah, I'm painting the stitch. Originally, I thought it'd be kind of cool to make the stitch cloak because the cloak has all these stitches in it, like it's multiple pieces of fabrics put together.
Mhm.
I like that's kind of neat to make each different part of it a different color, like a different animal
Mhm.
has been put together. And I'm like, that looks really weird. Better to stick with one color.
right.
But yeah, bring your miniatures next time you come down, guy.
That's what I
So
was thinking. I should like do that.
Yep,
Yep.
you are blurry.
I am blurry. Clean my glasses, see if that makes it better.
Hmm.
Did you? One time my camera did that, and I actually put my glasses up to it, and it actually cleared up the everything. I was like, "Really? Come on!"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "I'll go clear again." I'm like, that's ridiculous. Yep. Nope. Yep. Maybe. It's not working as well for you.
No, it's not. So we started showing The Last of Us to Guy and Kevin,
Okay.
and
It's
they're
very
2
good.
episodes in. Not a lot of jump scares.
Yeah, I appreciate the not a lot of jump scares, but I also, I really appreciate the kind of storytelling it does. There's a lot of red herrings in the storytelling, and I really like that. I like the, where, you're sure you know what's going on in this situation, and then as the scene unfurls, it's not going the way you think it is, and it goes
Cool.
completely different. And I really like that. I think that's
Yeah, it works pretty hard at going. Here's a trope. You know this trope. You've seen it 1,000 times, so it looks like it's happening again. Psych.
Subvert.
Yep.
Nice.
I dig that. I really dig that.
Yeah. I'm rewatching Sandman.
Oh yeah.
And I'm at the point like I'm at the serial convention now, but before that I was like, oh, it's the scenes of abusing this kid. Skip.
Yeah.
All right. Watched it once, I need to see it again.
Yeah. I noticed that there's a lot of things that are like that in my world. I've discovered in my day. There's like certain scenes, and I skip over that. Although I did recently sign up for Crunchyroll, and I'm so far behind on so many anime that I'm like going through and watching all these anime. But one of them they had was Arcadia of My Youth, the original Harlock movie that I watched when I was 19 or whatever that got me into anime in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
and I started to watch it, and I was watching it in Japanese, and I was like watching it, and I was like, you know what? So I switched it to English, and I can't believe this, but I actually really wanted to watch it in the dumb English dub, which is horrible, but for some reason super comforting, and I don't know why.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, it's totally nostalgic, but I was like, the opening title comes up on it, and it says, when men are at the end of their lives, all of their youth looks like Arcadia. And I was like, oh, that hurts. He stabs me right in the gut. Oh. So it was like really, of course, that phrase meant nothing to me at 19.
Mm-hmm.
But now at 50, it makes a lot more sense, and it's a whole different meaning. It's like, ouch.
Yeah, I was looking at there's a bunch of classics I just haven't seen all the way through, or like maybe I've seen a couple of episodes and that's it. But so like the Records of Lodoss War.
Oh yeah,
is only on Crunchyroll. So I was like, dang it, I don't have that.
Well, we can watch Lodoss War.
I think there's a lot of those though, I think.
Well, there's only 8 OAVs to the original. I mean, if you want to watch like the original 8 OAV saga, we could do that in a couple of nights. If you wanted to fit that in, I'd be willing to do that. I don't know if Crunchyroll has done the same thing as the other ones, where they're starting to figure out whether you're in 2 places or not. But I'd be willing to, type in the password and
yeah, then I'll have it here. You can say it's for when I travel.
Because I mean, because I'm always there and we're always watching stuff together. So that seems like a perfectly appropriate and not as sketchy as, well, I'm just going to loan my password to every, I'm always there watching stuff. And so
Brent says,
but I have been able to watch Witch from Mercury, which is something I really wanted to watch. That's the new Gundam. And it is really good. And I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
Brent said he's got some Lord of the Ring guys to paint. Are those the Games Workshop ones or STL file Lord of the Ring dudes? Now, of course, I have to wait a couple minutes for the question to catch up.
Kind of trickle down
But
to
yeah, on our trip to Europe when we went to Games Workshop place, Tara really liked the Lord of the Rings miniatures. No interest at all in the game, but that's one of those. It's like, I probably should pick up the main characters and paint those for her sometime.
Yeah, totally. Do it.
I've been wanting to paint I've got a mini for Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, and RC.
Oh, yeah.
And I really want to paint those guys.
Yeah, you disapproved of my idea, Steve, or at least your face had that look of disapproval when I said I was going to paint my Bumblebee as Herbie the Love Bug.
Oh no, I think that'd be awesome. You can paint your Bumblebee any way you want.
I know, but when I said that, you did this look where it was like,
yeah, well, but you know, sometimes you read that one way. That look was trying to imagine Bumblebee with the stripe and the number, and then I was like, oh, yeah, no, actually that'd work. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no, I don't disapprove. I just I had to imagine it, and it was a silly picture, which makes it even more appropriate. You know what I mean? Like, I'm okay with that. So.
Have you started showing Rome to the Frenches yet?
Oh yeah. We're excuse me, about halfway through season 1.
Cool.
And yeah, super good. And Kevin decided to come and like watch it with us, but then like I figured they're just gonna loan him my DVDs and he could watch them and stuff. And then but like James instead was like talking to him about it, and I'm like, just have him read the freaking Wikipedia. Come on.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like. I get it. You bring it up to speed. It's a bit more personal, you know, and so it's just funny. And but no, yeah, watching it, enjoying it.
Cool.
What was the last episode we just watched? It's the Egeria one, the one where Atia has Polo take her son to a brothel. So
we've all been there before.
Right.
Dad's taking us to a brothel.
No, not dad. Hireling. Hireling taking son to brothel to make him into a man. So, yeah. Great show.
Yeah. So, in the geek news side of things, the thing I'd learned, I'm not super up on Critical Role, although I know a lot of people are.
I like Critical Role. I like to listen to it when I'm working.
I haven't gotten around to the little bit I did listen to. I liked. It's just they haven't usurped the couple of podcasts that are my go-to podcast right now and have been for a while.
That makes sense.
Really like the cartoon. I'm enjoying that. But there is a member of the cast, Brian Foster. I had to look up his name because I couldn't remember it. Who's recently been determined to not be that great of a person, and so. Of course, he left Critical Role about a year ago, and at the time, of course, he did the political thing of he's leaving to move on to other projects. But it's looking more like now they're like, you're a horrible person, get the hell out of here. And recently, about 100 of the episodes that he was in have vanished from YouTube. Like Critical Role just decided, we don't want him to be associated with us. We're just going to remove those episodes.
Yeah, what they did was they just ran they took out entire runs.
Yeah, because he was a player
yeah,
or GM in those runs.
Yeah.
So it's hard to work around that when you have someone in that many episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was really interesting that that's the price you pay as part of being a bad person now. People can just remove your work that you've done because you don't own that. They own that.
It's an interesting thing because also we're dealing with a lot of ownership problems right now because of course the writer's strike and then followed by the actor's strike, which is fascinating. Having grown up in that industry and weathered writer's strikes with my mom,
your mom,
completely like having problems with trying to get jobs set up and things like that, and during writer's strikes is really, really tough. And looking at some of the stuff that they're talking about, I'm fascinated by it because I'm kind of hoping that maybe there might be a change in the way that we view art and an artist. Because, of course, part of this is that AI is out there doing AI things, right? And it's like doing all these things. And one of the things that the writers and one of the things the actors are fighting for right now is there was a new policy that they wanted to put into place, which would allow you to scan an actor, pay them their day rate, and then use them in perpetuity. And one actor put out there this entire post, which was fascinating, where he said he went for a video game. They scanned him in for the video game. He did the voice work for the specific character, and then they paid him for it. And then later on, he found out that he was one of the bad guys in another game that was making billions of dollars. And people were blowing him up. They were shooting him. And he wasn't playing the character that he was hired for. He was now portraying some other character in some other way. I'm getting attacked by a spider. Don't. But he said that that's what we're fighting for. And that makes total sense. If I were an actor and I came into the part, I wouldn't want to be playing the part of, I don't know, Hitler's henchman or whatever. So if you scanned me in and then all of a sudden made me play, you know, a bad guy from Hitler's regime, that would be against what I'd want. I wouldn't choose that part. But once you scanned me in, you've got my likeness. And that's the big problem. And that adds a whole level of interestingness to this situation, you know? And it's fascinating to me. You know, I don't know. I mean, what do we think, guys?
So as I had to look it up, I had to reverse engineer this to remember what year it was. So 1994 was the first use of CGI to replace an actor who had already died. And that was in The Crow. They replaced Brandon Lee. And I remember what I remembered was my brother Todd's commenting on that now that this technology is there, all they need to do is scan an actor or go copy previous films they'd done, then they're already dead, and recreate films now with that actor. So you could have new films being released with Humphrey Bogart in them, saying new lines, doing new stuff. And of course, in 1994, the technology wasn't there to do a whole movie like that and make it look decent. But that's pretty much where we are now. If people wanted to, they could make an entire movie with someone in it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah. And Bob's saying, you know, shouldn't the studio be responsible for using the likeness in a different game than what he was paid for? Responsible as in financially. That is definitely one of the things that they're fighting for. But again, like I said,
comes down to the contract he signed.
If I were to be scanned in for, you know, the cool, awesome captain of this spaceship, and then while they're at it, they use me to be, you know, Hitler, I would be pretty upset about that. Or, I mean, even more, I mean, because like, obviously I wouldn't want to be Hitler, but if they made me into one of the people who was in charge of a Japanese internment camp, personally, that would be a violation of me. I mean, like, that's a thing that affects me personally because of my relations with that particular culture. And so it would be not just the average Hitler thing. It would actually be something that I would not want to have happen. I wouldn't want to be portrayed as somebody who was involved at all in the Japanese internment camps because of the culture that I'm very closely associated to. I'm very tied in with the Japanese culture. So I wouldn't want that. That would represent me in a bad way. And especially if my Japanese friends saw that and saw me being there whipping Japanese people or whatever you have going on in that, it'd be horrifying.
It would come down to what you signed.
Yeah.
So it'd be how open it was to, you may use my likeness and voice in this movie.
Right now, they may use their likeness and voice in any way that they want, and that's part of the problem.
Right. the contracts are almost always the powerful exerting their will upon the less powerful.
Right.
But less so. It's as horrible as it would be to be your likeness and voice being used in a way that you do not want to for a part, like ethically, morally, all that. The fact of the matter just is, it's like, I contracted to do this work for you. That's it.
Just this.
Mm-hmm.
Not so you can sit there and use me as extras or whatever and anything else, or construct things. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. That's what you paid me for.
Right.
And I guess it's one of those like 30-page contracts, and in the last few pages it says, and the studio now owns your rights to use this in any way they see, type thing.
That's
so,
it's
well, and I mean, legitimately, especially if you talk about female performers, you scanned them in, and in that contract, could you use them for pornography at that point? What does that contract cover? There's a lot of scary stuff in there that could happen if you're not watching it, keeping an eye on it.
Either of you watch any of the latest episodes of Black Mirror?
No, I don't watch any porn. I mean,
I have
You're
not
doing it right now, guy.
I haven't watched any of the most recent season.
The episode "Joan is Awful."
Yeah.
That sounded pretty good. Yeah.
Tackles the using the likenesses and stuff. For
this is
things.
You said Black Mirror. I was making snarky comments, but you were talking about Black Mirror. Yes.
Yeah.
I love where Black Mirror keeps going. I mean, it's kind of interesting because Black Mirror for a while was saying the same things Orville was, and the Orville was running on that cutting edge again too. So
yeah, I sent you the link in description of the one episode in the alternate 1969 space episode, because I figured
I love
that backdrop would catch your attention a lot. But I want to say it was either between season 1 and 2 or season 2 and 3. I watched an interview with Charlie Brooker, the creator of Black Mirror, and he was talking about the episode, saying that the things happening at that point, which was like, I want to say 2016, with the presidency run and all that stuff, he said, if I would have tried writing that stuff into any of my episodes, people would have rejected it as being, it's unbelievable. That won't happen. And so the stuff that ended up happening was stuff far beyond what he felt anybody would have even accepted as a feasible Black Mirror episode, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
take on that. And I get the feeling we're going to come up and see a lot of the same stuff again in a few years.
Well, and it is part of what this whole strike is about.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that, again, back to knowing how things were when I was a kid. Part of the problem was, and I had said this earlier today, I went out to lunch with a couple of buddies of mine from school who knew my mom and knew what she was doing and stuff like that. And I thought, I said one of the most interesting things was to watch my mom suffer from a dichotomy issue. Here she was, a woman of the 80s in a man's field, having to fight the glass ceiling, and at the same time tell women, you're too fat for this part, or you're not tall enough for this part, or you need to be blonder, or be prepared to take off all your clothes, or, you know what I mean? Like, because that was the environment. That was where they were. And I remember at one point in time, I was talking to one of the actresses that worked for her that lived with us for a time because she needed to be sheltered. I remember talking to her at one point in time and her saying something like, that's effectively what we're doing, is selling our bodies, and we know it. And, and this is, of course, where we were in the 80s, right? And it was brutal. And even at whatever age I was, 11 or 12 or 13 or whenever it was that I was talking to this particular individual, even I knew that wasn't right. And I knew that wasn't, like, there was something wrong here. And I didn't know what was going on because, of course, I knew the word selling your body meant prostitute, and I knew that wasn't the term that this person was trying to convey to me. But she's like, I have to keep myself at 110 pounds. I can't be heavy. I can't overeat. I can't, because I'm selling my body. That's the point. And I remember that so clearly. And I remember having that discussion with her because she was blonde, blue-eyed, one of those bombshells. And that was the whole point. And she also was a really cool person and like a real interesting individual. And here she was, she had to go in and play all these dumb roles where she was dumb and stupid and vapid because that's what they expected at that time. So there's an expectation in the culture that you are selling your body to the studio. The studio will use your body as they will. You are free to decline. However, once you have agreed to this contract, you do what the contract says. If the contract says that you take off all of your clothes, you do that, and that is a thing you do. And it's, it's back to do you want to make money or not?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's finally going down with SAG and AFTRA. It's kind of funny because I remember SAG and AFTRA being such a pain in my mom's rear. She hated them so much. So SAG and AFTRA, SAG is Screen Actors Guild, and that's like the big union. AFTRA is the American Federation of Theater and something actors. Theater and I don't know. The R stands for something, but it's the American Federation of Theater something actors. So SAG and AFTRA are the two. So in other words, SAG covers everybody who's on screen. AFTRA covers people who are on screen and people who are in the theater. So that's part of what's going on. So they usually work together, and I very rarely see SAG do something by itself or AFTRA do something by itself. Just depends on whether you're on Broadway or not. But see, Bob's saying, but they shouldn't be able to use your likeness in other projects without your permission. That's the thing. That's the thing. They do. Because they put in clauses in every movie that says we can reuse your likeness in any way for reasonable reasons. It was put in originally because without it, you can't make DVD extras on a DVD disc. You have to go through this whole process of getting permission and all these things again just to show outtakes because that wasn't part of it. And so that clause was actually put in there in the original setup because the idea was when we make a VHS home video movie of this, we're going to re-edit it. Once we re-edit it to fit on or re-edit it to put it on TV, once we do, we can't go out and get permission from everybody again. That takes forever. There's hundreds of people to work on a movie. So the concept behind that clause was we can use your likeness in any way we wish, which was unspoken. We're only going to do it for DVD extras. But then as time has gone on, people have taken it further.
Yes, the powerful saw that there was not an exclusive, only for only for home video extras, and started to extend their reach.
Exploit it. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what happened. You get these people who are like, now we can redo things, and now we can rebuild things, and now we can go all over the place, and now we can go into our sponsors too. Because I should say at this point in time that Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, and your mom.
Your mom.
And my mom, apparently. In this one.
A lot of your mom.
Yeah, I know, right?
So there's a thing I had meant to repost on Facebook that I know all my artist friends and such have talked about time and time before, and I thought this was a nice little stab at it. Called the quote is, "Unfortunately, I can't take on any unpaid work to help you make money at this time. Thanks for thinking of me, though."
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how much that's still happening because I'm not out in that market, but I'm sure there's still a bunch of places saying, "Hey, come do this for free because then your name will be out there."
Yeah.
Completely, it's like, you mean do this so you can make money that you should have been paying me some of
this entire time? Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is going to come down to both contracts having in them a lot more specific. This work is only for this specific thing, and cannot be reused, or if reused or reshown, the residuals must be there or something. Which I guess will then put studios in a situation where they'll have to decide, do they want to not do that and just try to go move towards a lot more stuff being AI created, or what? So it's hard to know.
The guys who run Penny Arcade, they have been piping in on this here and there, and they were talking about how it's they've been in rooms with people because they're creatives. One's a cartoonist, one's a writer, and they're talking to execs about optioning for this or that, or paying them to do more reach and all that. And these executives and these people who represent them are like, we hate creatives. To their face in the meeting.
Wow.
And they're like, oh, that's great. Okay, I guess we're not working with you.
Yeah.
It's like
that's not helping.
Yeah, and that is common. Like they there's a certain mindset that comes into make the thing, profit off the thing, get the audience for the thing, and where it comes from, who cares? That doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
as long as it's making them money, that's all that
they care about. Does matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thinking about also, the big stars. I mean, Scarlett Johansson is a woman, which comes with its own. Comes with its own layer of bullshittery in the industry. But can you imagine like Warner Brothers trying to pull that shit with Keanu Reeves?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because they took so much footage of him for Matrix and Matrix 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And then of course the new one too. It's like, dude, there is no way they would try to take him on.
Right.
He's just got too much clout. And so, but it's of course, oh well, see, we treat these 3 people really well. And you 300,000 people, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the problem is that it's unbalanced. And part of what they're also arguing about is we're, trying to get some kind of compensation for is, the fact that day rates are what they are, and they're stuck behind these day rates where they're like, look, we paid you $1,000 a day. Well, yeah, but I only worked 2 days this month, and that's it. And if you're going to then go, oh, well, great, we've paid you the day rate. It is a day rate, and scale is like 1085 a day now. And if you're working for scale, that's by the way, scale is the bare minimum. That means that if you're working,
could pay you less, they would.
They could, but they would, but they can't because that's negotiated with the SAG and after a contract.
And usually it's like a lot of actors aren't allowed to take less, even if they want to. So they'll do things like if they really believe in an independent movie, they'll get paid scale, but then put that money back in as like a producer.
They'll donate it. Yeah. And that's how you end up with these people doing that. But yeah.
Yeah, in the past, that some big names would be like, oh, I'm going to leave the union for, the next 6 months while I work on this project.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But part of this is that, they're looking at this and they're having problems with it because, they work for scale. And people have a disproportionate feeling of what's going on in here. They're like, Tom Cruise makes $60 billion a second. Why is he going on strike? That's stupid. No, he's not going on strike. It's all of those people who are out there suffering. I mean, I remember one time, I was talking to my mom about all of these things when they were talking about going on a strike at one point. They didn't, because they actually haven't gone on strike since the 60s, but they threatened to in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember her saying, because I said the same thing. I was like, gosh, I mean, doesn't everybody make $1 billion? And she's like, there are a whole bunch of people who have amazing voices and are really lovely and very pretty. And they would really like for you to remember to tip them before you leave, because they're all working in restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and I remember her saying that because the way she said it was like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, bam, it hit me so hard.
Yeah. And it's also like just because the A-list and B-list celebrities are making good money, good and are making great money or good money and a good living, like the Bruce Campbells in the industry.
Right.
It's like, oh, so not like, is this yet another thing that they're not allowed to sit there and be political about?
Right.
They can't they can't throw their clout behind other people in their profession to make it better for them.
Right.
It's like, no being political ever. Unless it's for the establishment, then it's okay.
Well, and that therein is, there's another problem that we've got, which is, what do you do at that point in time when they are saying legitimately that you can't be political? I mean, I may not necessarily agree with what's her name that was in The Mandalorian, but now they've got contracts that they're signing that says they can't rock the boat. That's another thing that I think is interesting, and another aspect of this. You're representing the company, and I'm not sure where I fall on this one, by the way. This is not one where I agree or disagree with what's going on. I'm not sure where I fall. I guess if I was with Geek Tank and out there wearing my Geek Tank uniform and saying, I don't know, whatever, kittens should be killed or whatever, it would be a thing that I could see. We'd be like, maybe you shouldn't be here. Like, let's distance you from this.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like, so like, give up your ability to exercise your right to make money. And it's not because they're like, because we want people to do and think the right thing. It's that it's going to cost us more money than you're worth.
Right.
If you don't toe the goddamn line.
Right.
Which I think comes back to the thing with Critical Role. They probably decided this person's actions that have been building up over this time makes Critical Role look bad if we show any kind of tolerance for it.
Yeah.
So
they're not wrong.
Yeah.
And they're not wrong. They're not. I mean, it's becoming one of those things. It's a thing that's occurring.
It's just so much cheaper to be a good person.
Right. Well, and like I am seriously contemplating returning to school to go study cultural anthropology, because all of this fascinates me. The why of all of this. Why do people do these things? Why are people like this? Because it's not clean cut, and it's not black and white, and there's all kinds of layers underneath it, and it's fascinating to me. But I mean, why are people against unions? And I actually talked to a guy and whittled him down in a thread on Facebook, because he said there shouldn't be unions. And I said, okay, but we actually have historical proof that without unions, you have children dying in coal mines. That literally happened. That's not something we speculate. That's not something people think will occur. It really did happen. We really did. And not just one, not just two, but thousands. So it was not a small thing. It wasn't an isolated incident. It occurred. We had children in England who died in chimneys, being chimney sweeps, who were, they hired them at the younger the better. So they wanted them at 4, 5, or 6 years old, and they were dying in there. And that's not a.
So where'd you get them to?
So I whittled him down, and okay, well, yeah, but the problem with unions is X, Y, or Z. The people who are involved are this, the people who are involved are that. And it was interesting because I was like, okay, but that's your union. That shouldn't be unions in general. What's your solution? And he said, maybe there needs to be like an oversight, something that goes in and checks to make sure the union is performing for the best interests of people. I said, interestingly, I think you're probably right. An oversight committee that was independent would be interesting. I said, also could work for the Bureau of Internal Affairs in the police districts and things like that. Because then you could have an independent person come out and say, look, we audited this union. They're performing the way they're supposed to for the best interests of the people. And make it not, feel so bad. Because I think a lot of the things we we downplay is the optics. We downplay optics a lot. Optics being, that's a NASA term for if you mess up this, it's not going to look good for NASA or for anybody around it. Mm-hmm. And so they're very big about what are the optics of this? If we lose astronauts on this flight, what are the optics on this? And try to mitigate that and stand ahead of it. But it's the same thing. I think that people don't think about the optics. We have a lot of optics issues. There just needs to be. I felt like he had a great solution to that. Either everybody's doing their job like they're supposed to and he doesn't think they are, that's on him. But if you have an independent entity that comes in and goes, no, we looked at everything's running the way it's supposed to, it's working for the best of you guys, I think that'd be a fascinating business venture, 504c3, something. It's a good idea. It's just interesting.
So the National Labor Relations Board are the people that are the oversight for unions. So it exists.
Mm-hmm. So it already exists, mm-hmm. which is what I'm going to zing him with. Thank you very much.
Independent federal agency vested with the power to safeguard employees' rights to organize and to determine whether to have unions as their bargaining representatives. Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
No, I was to say there's as a story from those who know my stepfather, which is people on this podcast and Mr. Sheets. He used to work in offshore oil rig drilling. He then started working in the Navy as a machinist, made nuclear technician on a sub, and then he went into the Department of Energy, helped shut down Rocky Flats. He did work Tennessee Valley Authority, right. Los Alamos, Las Vegas for the most part, all that. He's in the DOE, and one day he's working at Los Alamos for a few years, and there's a lot of more conservative right-wing attitudes in the industry anyway. And there was a guy who was really getting that he'd mess with once in a while. The guy's like, posse comitatus, only the sheriff should be the people, is the highest form of law enforcement in the land. And he's like, how do you spell that? Because I'm doing this search on this PDF of the Constitution. I can't find the word sheriff anywhere in it. Stuff like that.
The Posse Comitatus Act of 1876 is always a funny one. I just like when people hold that one out.
So then he's so one day they had to go into the office on a Saturday, and for some mandatory meeting, they had to get everybody there. Everybody works different shifts. They get everybody in for this dumbass meeting, just make an announcement, yada yada. And of course, they get donuts, and the meeting's gonna be like an hour with like another half hour of questions, and they're gonna get paid for like the day. And so my dad's there, and he's hanging out, and he's just waiting for the meeting to start. And this same guy comes in, and is like, "Oh, I can't wait to," and he's always been bad mouthing unions. He's like, "I can't wait to get my full day's pay after only a couple hours of work and free donuts and coffee." And my dad is like, "Shut the fuck up." You know why you get paid all day for only coming in for an hour and a half? Because of unions. Mm-hmm. You know why your kid didn't die in a coal mine? Because of unions. You know why you get paid this much money and have these benefits? Because of unions. So shut the fuck up.
Right.
I'm already in here on a Saturday. I don't want to deal with your bullshit too.
That's right. Without the unions, you'd be in here. You get coffee and maybe get paid for the hour.
Mm-hmm. You get coffee and have to fucking pay for it in company script. Shut the fuck up. It's like, after he told me that story, I found him like a college style T-shirt, like UCLA and all that stuff. But the marquee, the logo of the mascot was like a guy with a Greek helmet and a ball gag. And it was STFU.
I think that's the thing. People gripe about union dues, and I do remember there was a time when my mom's business was both union and non-union. She had talent from both sides. So I remember one day I would say it was summertime of late 88 or 87. The union came in and said, "Hey, you either go all union or no union." And Mom was so mad because that meant that no matter which way she went, she was going to lose 50% of her talent. And she ultimately went union, and that made sense. But she went union based on her opinions of unions. You know what I mean? Like, as in, she realized, but she also was kind of buying into the same kind of crap that everybody else does, which is unions do nothing but make you pay money, and then they don't actually help you. You know what I mean? Everybody's all bloated at the top, and they all just kind of sit around and drink
completely
martinis.
Different from CEOs and boards of directors,
right?
Of
Exactly.
Multinational companies, right? I mean,
that was part of the argument that this guy online was making with me, was that you can't do anything about the upper management, you can't do anything to vote them out, yada yada yada. Except that I think you actually can, and I think that he just doesn't. But that's not.
But it's hard, guy. It's hard.
It's totally hard. I get it.
Instead of just complaining on the internet.
It's much harder to actually do the footwork.
It's hard.
It's a difficult thing. We have to feel bad.
You might have to organize to make some change happen.
But I mean, the truth is, you go back and look at the history of unions, and it's not even that long ago. I mean, like, this wasn't even, it's not like we organized in the Greek times or anything. Unions were coming around in the early 1900s. You know, like, I mean, that's where people were like, we're fed up with you killing off all of our kids. We're fed up with you making
have some
husbands
dignity,
work 90-hour weeks.
No?
You think there would be at least a little foresight of, like, if we keep killing all these kids, we won't have any more workers.
No.
That one always gets me, because I'm like,
we'll help make conditions so bad everywhere that people will be desperate for any shit we shovel into their fucking face.
Right, but if you
and that actually is really what happened. Is that they would do things that would trap people. One of the, I mean, like the great infamous, I can't remember the name of it, Leadville, here in Leadville, where they had a community and they had built all the houses to move the miners out to the Leadville. Then they wouldn't pay them, and they charged them rent. So every dollar they made just went back into the pockets of the guys who were up there.
Towns.
And the company town, and it made it so that nobody could move. You couldn't leave. And in doing so, you know, it was like you were stuck. And that actually is kind of what ends up happening when you look at what's kind of going on now in our culture right now. People work so hard at their jobs and they live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have enough resources to change jobs. So the counter argument to what happens when a company treats you badly has always been, go to a different job, except that you get stuck. You can't move. Quitting would mean losing your house instantly because you're so close to zero all the time. So then we end up with this entire thing where companies just take advantage. And it's fascinating that the proof was in the pudding. When it came to COVID, everybody got a stimulus package that allowed them 1 month, and that's all they needed. And they all moved up to the next level. They got out of those low level jobs. They got out of McDonald's and Wendy's, and they moved out of there like that, because all they needed was just a moment long enough to go look for a better job.
And then all of a sudden, all the other people are, why is nobody working for McDonald's anymore?
Because it's shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Because and it's not that the job is necessarily bad. It is not the world's best job, but you could be a better manager and still make it exciting, interesting, and engaging.
It's not that, it's the money. You can't survive off of it. It doesn't matter how bad the job is.
And that's absolutely true. But I mean, like, that's the thing. That's what really was the problem, is that you don't have to work as a manager. Right? I want to hire you two to be working for me. I can do this one of two ways. I can engage you, I can make you part of my team, or I can threaten to fire you at any moment's notice and risk your livelihood. And then you'll be terrified and do the job. And then I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do any work. So it's a lot easier to go to the threatening way than it is to try to be engaging and get a team working together.
Well, and then they started getting teenagers who really didn't give a crap if they lost their job. And
Right.
then the managers lost their power. I'll fire you if you don't buy.
Right.
I'm taking my severance package, just a sack full of quarter pounders with cheese.
It's right.
In
a pocket full of nuggets. All right. But yeah, I mean, this is still going on with the whole college situation. If you make it hard enough that one group of people, I'm not pointing any fingers or saying any names, that can't get into college, then they can't get the college degree to get the good jobs, because the good jobs require the college degree, and that's how you control who gets the most money in which group of people. And really, a bunch of jobs need to. I know there's talk of this already. Just saying, you know what? You don't need a college degree to apply for this job. They're looking into that already. So I'm hoping it goes that way a lot more, because it really is your difference of what your level of money you make per year is going to be based off of, did you dump a bunch of money into college and get a college degree or not? And that still doesn't guarantee that you get it. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just replying to Brent. He said, did you see the 2 links I sent you? And I said, well, if you sent them in the last 52 minutes, no, because I've got StreamYard up right here.
Were they sausage links?
Yeah, he probably sent them to me in Facebook.
I just realized sausage links could be like code for porn.
Sausage links would be cool, except if they have fennel. I've just never really dealt with. Oh, early afternoon. I don't know, maybe. Oh yes, the school links. Yeah, I've already dove down into one of those. It is. Mm-hmm. A buddy of mine just went to work for Wendy's because he just needs a job, and he actually legitimately has a chef's degree. And it's like, I can't believe that. But, his whole thing is he's far enough out of town that it's hard to get work anyway. So, if he wants to live that far out of town, this is a better choice than to drive all the way into Denver every day. And it's, especially a gas being at $4 a gallon, that's not a good alternative. So,
right
thing. So interesting. I just find it interesting, this whole thing. I mean, my opinion on this, of course, is I am definitely with the actors on this one, but I always, I've always sided with the actors anyway over the studios, just because of the way I grew up.
Well, we're creatives.
Yeah, they're the creatives, and I'm a creative.
And we are creatives.
I like being a creative, and I like working for the creatives and stuff like that. So it's a thing that's a thing, I guess. It's a thing. It's like a Sing Sing, except not a prison.
As if you keep approaching jokes as like a shotgun, eventually one of those will hit.
One of them will hit.
Yeah.
It's they're little teeny BBs, but it works.
Alex was about to say something. I'm sorry.
Was I?
I thought you were.
I think Alex is just going, why am I on this show again?
Why am I with these two idiots?
400th time.
No, we're talking with some stuff in my wheelhouse, so I'm cool.
Yep. Yeah, you've got opinions on this one. I'm glad.
So.
Yep. Or I'll just keep not having a funny joke and a pun, and it'll still be fine.
Yeah. In the private chat, I linked to a short interview with David Simon.
I saw that.
You guys should check it out. It's good because he's definitely more a writer than anything. So from the writer's perspective and how they've been being treated, it's really good.
David Gerrold did a very long, ongoing thing about it. David Gerrold being the author of Trouble with Tribbles and a couple of other very noted Star Trek episodes. And he's a beloved alumni of Star Trek. So a lot of us follow him and listen to what he says. And he has a lot to say. And it was the same kind of thing. It's interesting. I did read Simon Pegg brought up a quote that I thought was really cool. And I'm going to bring it up here real quick and read it.
David Simon is the main showrunner and head writer of The Wire, a show some of you may have heard of.
Maybe. So Simon Pegg said, the only thing AI can do is create mediocrity because all it can do is aggregate what's out there. So yes, it can write a script, but it'll be rubbish. AI, stop doing that. AI has had no childhood trauma. AI has never had a boyfriend or a girlfriend, never had its heart broken. It's never been through anything that would give it the impetus to create art. To rely on it would be to just make everything mediocre. And we have to fight mediocrity in order to create great art. And I thought that was an interesting angle. But of course, I absolutely adore Simon Pegg, and I always have. He's one of the the reasons why the third Kelvin movie was not a bad movie. It was actually kind of fun. It's because he wrote it.
I never even saw it. I was beyond tired of it.
That's all right.
With the first,
you can be beyond tired. It's
well,
fine.
The second one would take it out of anybody. So.
The second one, we didn't even talk about that. That's the Bruno movie.
The first one was bad, and the second one was amazingly worse. I didn't think it was possible.
Yeah.
No, second one was
I'm not saying I hate J.J. Abrams, but golly, I hate his work.
Anyway, Simon Pegg, though, I dig him. He's a good guy.
I heard a thing with him in it once. He's talking about his buddy Nick Frost and how they were friends and used to go out drinking together. Like they met, and he was Nick Frost was doing stand-up comedy and such, and he loved his humor, and managed to get him into the meeting for this one movie to try out as an actor. And he got the part, but then the people casting, it's like, so he is an actor, right? He's acted in other stuff, and they both like look at each other like, yeah, he's done other stuff, and managed to fake it enough that he gotten in there and got it in. Acting,
brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, their story's great.
Yeah, and mediocrity knows nothing better than itself, but talent instantly recognizes genius.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, as someone who likes to use random generators for everything that I do, I realized very early on that the random generators were the beginning of the process, not the end. It was the seed to get me out of my rut, whatever rut I was in, because I would get into these ruts where I'd be in the same thing over and over and over. And so I just use a random generator to jump me out of it. And I've actually used AI from time to time in that manner. I've got to think up this scene. I've got to think up this whatever. I'll go to Midjourney and type in a prompt, and I'll go, oh, okay. No, you know what? That's a good thing. But I wouldn't copy that. I would just then take that and run with it. And I think that we're talking a lot more about the fact that that they're going to use AI now to create things that replace us. Like Bob's saying, it was always supposed to relieve the blue and white collar workers so we could focus on arts. The problem is you've got to be willing to get into the universal basic income at that point in time. Because it's going to have to be that way.
Leisure only for the moneyed classes.
Right.
Not for us plebs. Come on.
We got far more other things to do.
Coolest use of the AI stuff I've seen so far is some of the D&D groups I'm on Facebook use them to create the scenes and images used for while they're telling the story.
Yeah. Which is useful
for character NPCs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the best I've seen on that so far. Well, we are coming up on your time to swap over to your other show.
To swap over, man.
The Guy Davis Show.
The Guy Davis Show. Why is this all screwed up? I don't know.
Because it's the Guy Davis Show.
It is. It really is. And it's all screwed up. I don't know what the problem is. Anyway. All right. Well, I guess that's all the time we've got for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. I really
like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe us and stuff. And now it's time for me to go off and do art with Guy.
You want me to press the button, or do you want to press the button?
I don't know what his problem is.
Are you pressing the button, or am I pressing the button?
Caress the button.
You're pressing the button. You're in charge.
Attend to the
whole thing,
and she will open up like a flower.
Exactly.
Squeeze the trigger.
That was a little creepy. So, anyway, that's all the time we have for today. I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And I've been Two Fists in It.
Nice.
And this is Geek Tank.